I want to start today by asking you, yes, you listening to this right now, a question that might actually sting a little bit.
Oh, we're diving right into the deep end, huh?
Yeah, we gotta. Because, I mean, think about it. How many times have you done the exact right thing, like played strictly by the rules, poured your heart into a project or a relationship, only to be completely overlooked, ignored, or even worse, heavily exploited?
Right. It's a really painful realization for a lot of people, but it is literally the foundational core we have to ask if we're going to understand the actual mechanics of human dynamics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because today we're doing a deep dive into a collection of materials gathered under the title, The Machiavellian Mindset, Strategy Beyond Kindness.
Yeah, and this is a fascinating one.
It really is. We are looking at a stark, honestly incredibly pragmatic analysis of why pure, unadulterated kindness often completely fails us in the real world. Like, this isn't about morality in a vacuum. It's about how human behavior operates in the wild.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack the concept of what the source calls smart kindness.
Smart kindness. I like that phrasing.
Yeah, because we're going to explore the underlying psychological and sociological reasons why the world, quite frankly, does not reward the pure of heart. It rewards the strategic.
Right.
So the goal here is to equip you with the tools to navigate an environment full of opportunists without losing your core self in the process. We're essentially analyzing how to protect your virtues by applying a layer of necessary calibrated cunning.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the foundational premise here drops a massive reality check right out of the gate.
It really does.
Where you're presented with this argument that human nature, when you strip away its polite societal veneer, is inherently volatile. It's deeply self-interested and, when necessary, incredibly cruel.
Yeah, which is a tough pill to swallow.
Right. It challenges this deeply ingrained, almost fairy tale belief that if we are just good people, the universe will somehow balance the scales and reward us.
Well, I mean, we are socially conditioned from a very young age through schooling, media, cultural narratives to believe that goodness is a complete self-sustaining strategy.
Right, like being good is all you need.
Exactly. We're taught that if you're honest, noble, and endlessly kind, success and respect will just naturally fall into your lap as a byproduct of that virtue.
Which is just not how reality works.
No, not at all. The argument we are examining today is that operating strictly under this belief is essentially navigating a battlefield with a map of a playground. It's a complete illusion.
Wow. Navigating a battlefield with a map of a playground. That is, it's framed as a trap in the text, right?
Yeah.
Virtue without cunning isn't some moral high ground, it's a structural weakness. Goodness without strategy is a trap.
Yeah, absolutely.
That struck me as such a heavy, unforgiving way to look at the world. But it forces you to reevaluate every interaction where you felt taken advantage of.
What's fascinating here is how we can view this through the lens of evolutionary psychology and game theory. Like, if we look at classic models, like the prisoner's dilemma.
Oh, right, the classic cooperation game.
Exactly. Pure altruists, the people who always cooperate no matter what, inevitably get wiped out by defectors. The opportunists who take without ever giving.
Because they just keep giving away their resources.
Right. In computer simulations of survival, a strategy of pure, unconditional kindness always fails because it has no mechanism to punish bad behavior.
Oh, wow. So without a punishment mechanism, the kindness just gets eaten alive.
Precisely. The models that actually survive and thrive are ones that begin with cooperation, sure, but immediately retaliate if they're crossed. Morality isn't a handicap, but it's a tool.
Right.
The distinction between being a player and a pawn is understanding exactly when to deploy that morality and when to shield it.
Wait, so being completely open and kind is basically like leaving the front door of your house wide open in a bad neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Like, sure, you are being welcoming. You're
Oh.
projecting trust. But you're actively guaranteeing that someone is going to walk in and rob you simply because the opportunity is there.
It actually goes even deeper than just inviting theft, though. Leaving that door wide open doesn't just present an opportunity, it alters how the neighborhood perceives the value of your house.
Wait, really?
Yeah, in human dynamics, kindness that isn't backed by boundaries or the capacity for power doesn't evoke admiration, it evokes pity.
Oh man, pity.
When people see someone who is endlessly giving and entirely defenseless, the biological response in a lot of individuals isn't to protect that person. It is to extract resources from them.
Because it's easy.
Exactly. Opportunists are highly attuned to this. They scan their environments for people operating under the naive assumption that everyone plays by the rules of fairness.
Which raises the question of how we are actually supposed to balance our own internal morality with this harsh pragmatism. Because this brings up Machiavelli's famous centuries-old dilemma, right? Is it better to be feared or loved?
Yes. And when presented with that binary today, modern sensibilities dictate that almost everyone instinctively chooses loved.
I mean, of course. Nobody wants to be the villain.
Right. We have a profound evolutionary drive for social acceptance. We want to be seen as harmless, agreeable, warm, because, in ancestral times, being cast out of the tribe meant death. So we default to seeking love.
Right.
But the harsh follow-up question we have to grapple with from the source material is, in a competitive environment, what practical utility does being loved actually provide?
According to this framework, practically nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it certainly doesn't yield respect, and it definitely doesn't yield power.
But choosing to be universally loved and perceived as completely harmless, the only signal you are broadcasting is that you can be used without consequence.
Wow.
If you're entirely focused on being nice, you're signaling to your peers and your superiors that they can take your credit, dismiss your input, push you to the margins, and you will not retaliate.
Because you're too nice to cause a scene.
Exactly. Why would they treat you with respect when there is zero penalty for treating you poorly?
We see this exact dynamic when we look at individuals who achieve massive paradigm-shifting success, right? The innovators, the historical heavyweights, the leaders we actually study.
Yeah, they didn't get there just by being nice.
No. They didn't reach the apex of their fields solely by harboring good intentions. They got there because they possessed the capacity to, as it's often described in the text, move in the shadows when required. They understood leverage.
They understood that systems do not naturally reward justice. Systems reward intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to play your cards ruthlessly when the stakes require it.
Right.
Their kindness is a luxury, and it's funded by their competence and their strategic edge. They protect their virtues with a very high wall.
So if pure competence and genuine goodness aren't the metrics by which the world assigns value, what is the brain actually looking for? This shifts our focus away from the reality of our internal character and forces us to look squarely at the perception of our power.
We are talking about the theater of power here, and this is where cognitive psychology plays a massive role.
Okay, lay it on me.
The explicit argument is that objective reality is vastly less important than how others perceive you. Your internal resilience, your actual intellect, your hidden talents, they're practically irrelevant if they aren't projected correctly.
That is so frustrating for, genuinely hardworking people to hear.
I know, but it's the truth. If you project weakness, you will be treated as weak, regardless of your internal fortitude. Conversely, if you project power, control, and authority, you will receive the dividends of respect. The ecosystem rewards those who master the art of selling their own narrative.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because it operates entirely like product packaging.
Oh, definitely.
Like, you can manufacture a wildly mediocre product, but if you encase it in a heavy velvet-lined luxury box with minimalist branding, it will drastically outsell a brilliantly engineered, superior product that you just hand to the customer in a wrinkled plastic bag.
That's exactly how it works.
We see this play out constantly. I mean, the text axis. How often do we watch an objectively incompetent person get promoted straight over a hardworking, noble, highly talented colleague?
We witness it constantly, and it causes immense frustration for those who believe in a pure meritocracy. But if we break down the heuristics of the human brain, it makes perfect logical sense.
How so?
Well, the human brain is a cognitive miser. It takes way too much caloric energy and time to deeply investigate every single person's objective underlying competence.
Right, we just don't have the bandwidth.
Exactly. So the brain relies on shortcuts or heuristics. People do not view reality objectively. They view it through filters of cognitive biases.
Okay, so they're just seeing what's easiest to see.
Yes. And the master strategist doesn't passively hope their good work speaks for itself. They actively manipulate those filters, directing attention specifically to the signals of competence they want others to see.
So the old adage of, letting your work speak for itself is essentially a massive strategic failure.
It is arguably the most common fatal flaw of the dedicated professional. We can relate this to the concept of cognitive fluency.
Cognitive fluency,
Right.
meaning how easy it is to process information.
Exactly. People prefer things that are easy to process. An insecure, highly competent leader who hesitates, over-explains, and shows anxiety that require a lot of cognitive effort for others to trust.
Because you're constantly trying to figure out why they're so nervous.
Right. They inspire no confidence despite being the most prepared person in the room. Meanwhile, an average intellect who projects absolute certainty is easy for the brain to process.
So the brain just says, oh, they're confident, they must know what they're doing.
Precisely. The brain conflates that projected certainty with actual competence. If you are brilliant but unable to project your value, you will remain entirely invisible. Competence is merely the entry fee. The projection of authority is the actual currency of the realm.
Think about this hypothetical workplace scenario from the text that perfectly illustrates this.
Yeah, the two workers.
Right. You have worker A, diligent, quiet, head always down. They produce flawless spreadsheets, catch every error, and operate under the beliefs that the universe, or at least upper management, will eventually weigh their pure effort and reward them.
The classic meritocracy trap.
Exactly. Then you have worker B. Maybe their work is slightly above average, nothing special, but they actively manage their image. They speak with measured authority in meetings. They own the narrative of their projects.
Right.
They act completely in control even when they're figuring things out on the fly. Human nature dictates that everyone naturally gravitates toward and promotes worker B.
And that gravitational pull happens because worker B provides psychological safety to the group.
Oh, that's interesting. Psychological safety.
Yeah, when someone projects control, it downregulates the anxiety of everyone around them. People will follow the individual who makes them feel secure, not necessarily the one who did the most background research.
Oh.
If you're sitting in the corner, waiting for the world to pull out a scale and objectively weigh your quiet diligence, you are going to be waiting until retirement. You have to actively construct and manage the perception of your value.
But to effectively control that perception, you have to meticulously control what you are projecting outward.
Yes, you do.
And this leads us to what is easily the most counterintuitive yet powerful mechanism in this entire framework. Because the most effective way to control how you are perceived isn't about crafting the perfect speech. It's actually about what you don't say.
We are entering the territory of the currency of silence. And this challenges the modern cultural obsession with extreme vulnerability and absolute transparency.
It really does. Because the fundamental rule of strategy is that information is leverage, right?
Absolutely. The text warns that naive operators believe that sharing every passing thought, explaining every motive, and being an open book is the ultimate display of integrity.
Right. The what you see is what you get mentality. We treat it like a badge of honor to have zero filter these days.
We do, but strategically it is disastrous. Oversharing makes you infinitely vulnerable.
How so?
Well, when you reveal everything, you provide your counterpart with a complete map of your insecurities, your desires, and your boundaries. Strategic silence is presented here not as a tool of deception, but as a protective mechanism.
A shield, basically.
Exactly. The ability to hold your tongue is often far more powerful than the ability to speak eloquently.
But isn't this exhausting? I mean, if I'm constantly filtering myself, never saying what I actually mean or purposely holding back, aren't I essentially just lying by omission to everyone around me? It feels inherently deceptive.
That is the natural friction point for anyone raised to value honesty. But you're conflating transparency with vulnerability. It is not about lying.
Oh.
It's about understanding that blending transparency with weakness is a fatal error. Let's step away from the morality of it and look at the mechanics. Controlling the flow of information creates an intentional void.
Right.
And because the human brain absolutely hates voids, it creates a sense of mystery.
It reminds me of a high-stakes poker game. You aren't lying to the other players by holding your cards close to your chest and maintaining a neutral expression. You're simply protecting your hand.
That's a great way to put it.
You would be an absolute fool to turn your cards around and show the entire table your hand just because you value living authentically and transparently.
That analogy holds up perfectly, especially when we look at the psychological chain reaction that silence triggers. When you speak less, and critically, when you explain less, you inherently command more respect.
Because they don't know what you're thinking.
Right. Think about the neurology of curiosity. Silence creates an information gap. That uncertainty breeds curiosity in the other person. They want to know what you were thinking, what your angle is.
Right.
That curiosity grants you immense power because their attention is entirely focused on trying to solve the puzzle of you. When you constantly over-explain your actions, especially to people who haven't earned that level of intimacy, you're bleeding out all of your leverage. You are doing all the cognitive work for them.
You're making yourself utterly predictable. And being predictable is the death knell of leverage.
Predictability is a fatal flaw because it turns you into an algorithm that others can easily game.
Oh, that's a scary thought, an algorithm.
It is. If a manipulator knows exactly how you will react, they know what phrase makes you angry, they know what compliment makes you compliant, they know exactly how long it takes you to apologize, they can steer your behavior effortlessly.
Because they have the instruction manual.
Exactly. The individual who maintains mystery, who occasionally changes tactics, and who resists being easily categorized into a neat little box is the one who survives and dictates the terms of the relationship.
I want everyone listening to do a quick mental exercise right now. Think of a truly influential person that you deeply admire. This could be a heavyweight in your specific industry, a historical figure, or even just someone in your personal life who naturally commands a room.
Yeah, keep them in mind.
Do they constantly over-explain themselves? Like, when they make a decision, do they rush to justify every single micro-action to their critics? No. They offer the necessary information, and then they stop talking.
Yes.
They always leave something in the shadows. They maintain a reserve of unexpressed power.
That unexpressed power is palpable. The moment you become completely legible to everyone around you, the moment your every move is anticipated and expected, you have sacrificed your strategic advantage. You just become part of the background furniture.
Okay, so we are utilizing silence to build an information gap, creating value and mystery through our words, or lack thereof. But this exact same principle scales up physically, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
We move from the power of withholding our speech to the profound power of withholding our physical presence. This is the law of strategic scarcity and distance.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we're essentially taking fundamental macroeconomic principles, specifically the law of supply and demand, and mapping them directly onto human relationships.
Supply and demand for human interaction.
Yes, it is a universal truth of human psychology. What is hyperabundant is despised, or at the very least completely taken for granted. What is rare, what requires effort to obtain, is deeply valued.
The idea that being too available actively destroys respect is a jagged pill to swallow, especially for the people pleasers out there who build their entire identity on being the dependable one.
It's uncomfortable because we're bombarded with messaging that equates constant availability with loyalty. We think to be a stellar employee, a devoted partner, or a great friend, we must be endlessly, instantly accessible.
Right. Always on call.
But human behavioral economics tells a different story. If you give limitlessly of your time and your presence, people will inevitably adjust their baseline.
They just get used to it.
Exactly. Your extraordinary generosity just becomes their new normal. You transition from being a person of high value to being a basic utility.
I kept thinking about oxygen versus gold when reading this.
Oh, that's a brilliant comparison.
Oxygen is the most vital substance for our survival. We need it every single second.
Yeah.
But we place zero conscious value on it. We don't hoard it, we don't admire it, we don't write songs about it because it is endlessly abundant.
Right.
Gold, on the other hand, is practically useless for our biological survival.
Yeah.
You can't eat it, you can't build strong shelter with it, but we obsess over it. We base entire economies on it, and people have fought wars over it simply because it is rare.
It's a striking way to conceptualize human value. Let's apply that to a corporate environment. If you are the oxygen in your office, you're always there early, always staying late, always the one who jumps in to fix the printer, always instantly replying to emails at 11 p.m., you will be structurally necessary.
Right.
But you will absolutely not be respected. You will simply be expected. To achieve the perceived value of gold, you have to artificially introduce scarcity. You must deliberately regulate your presence, your immediate responses, and your overall availability.
But there is a very real, very deep fear attached to that. And if I pull back, if I stop being the one who always volunteers, if I introduce this scarcity, what if people just forgot about me? What if I disappear and the world just keeps turning without me?
We have to confront that fear with a very harsh, sobering truth from the text. If your only method of maintaining relevance in a relationship or an organization is by merely always being around, then you possess no intrinsic value to begin with.
Ouch. That is rough.
It is. You're relying purely on proximity and convenience, not actual worth. True strategists do not exhaust their capital by fighting on the front lines of every minor skirmish.
Right.
They preserve their energy, they cultivate their skills in private, and they appear only when the stakes are high and their specific expertise is required. And because they're rarely seen in the everyday fray, when they finally do step into the arena, they command absolute, undivided attention.
So you manage your output of words, and you meticulously manage your physical presence. But this entire external fortress instantly crumbles if you lack one critical internal mechanism, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
You can be silent and scarce, but if someone pushes the right button, it all falls apart.
Which brings us to emotional fortitude, the ultimate impenetrable shield.
This shift in perspective is intense. It completely strips away the superficial idea that power looks like aggression.
People constantly confuse power with hyperreactivity. They think power is the person shouting, slamming their fist on the table, dominating a room with sheer volume, or, immediately firing back an aggressive email.
The classic tough guy act.
Right. But that is actually a display of profound neurological weakness. It means your limbic system, your emotional center, has completely overridden your prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for logic and strategy.
So they're literally out of control.
Exactly. True, unshakable control is absolute emotional regulation. Losing your temper, acting on impulse, or openly giving in to anxiety makes you a puppet. And as we established with the currency of silence, when you're predictable, you are easily manipulated.
The mechanics of provocation are fascinating when you break them down. When someone insults you or acts passive-aggressively, the natural instinct is to immediately snap back.
Of course, it's a defense mechanism.
But the moment you react in anger without thinking, you have essentially handed the remote control of your nervous system to the other person.
You've allowed them to completely dictate your internal state. Let's look at what a provocateur is actually doing. They are essentially fishing.
Fishing.
Yeah. They cast out a piece of bait, a slight, an unfair critique, a backhanded compliment. If you react emotionally, your cortisol spikes, your logic centers shut down, and you bite the hook. They now own the interaction.
Because they got exactly what they wanted.
They wanted you angry, and you complied. The person who maintains their center, who observes the insult without absorbing it, and who acts with cold, deliberate calculation rather than reactive, animalistic instinct, will dictate the outcome of that exchange every single time.
So, what does this all mean for our day-to-day lives? Are we supposed to undergo some kind of psychological surgery and become unfeeling robots?
Definitely not.
Like never showing joy, never showing anger, just navigating the world as these cold, calculating machines?
It is vital to make a clear distinction here. Developing emotional fortitude is not about not feeling your emotions. It is about not being a slave to what you feel.
Okay, that makes sense.
When someone insults you, you will absolutely feel the physiological sting. You'll feel the heat in your chest and the adrenaline spike. The mastery lies in experiencing that internal physical reaction, but refusing to allow it to dictate your external behavioral response.
You pause.
Exactly. You insert a gap between stimulus and response. You observe the emotion like a data point, and then you choose your next move based on long-term strategy, not short-term instinct.
That gap creates this incredible aura of invulnerability. Because if a toxic coworker or a manipulative partner cannot trigger you, if they can't map out how you will react to a manufactured crisis, they lose their leverage entirely.
They have absolutely no foothold.
It is like they're trying to push over a massive stone wall. They just end up exhausting themselves while you remain completely unmoved.
I want you to visualize the last time someone intentionally made you lose your temper. Really picture the exact moment you lost control and raised your voice or sent that regrettable text. Who truly held the power in that specific second?
Definitely not me.
Right. It wasn't you. It was the person who provoked you. They pulled a lever and you produced the exact reaction they wanted. To permanently reclaim that power, your emotional state must become an impenetrable fortress.
Okay, so let's look at the arsenal we've built. We've deconstructed the naive trap of pure, defenseless kindness. We understand that reality is often secondary to perception, and we have to actively curate our image.
Right.
We're leveraging the immense power of keeping our mouths shut to create mystery and making ourselves scarce to build demand. And we have forged an emotional shield so we cannot be hijacked by provocateurs.
It's a solid foundation.
But how do we take this theoretical armor and actually execute it in the real world? This brings us to the concept of the hunter's patience and becoming an anomaly in the system.
Execution is where theory is tested against reality. We live in a world heavily populated by deeply impulsive people. We are wired for hyperbolic discounting.
Hyperbolic discounting. That means we want things now, right?
Exactly. It means we overwhelmingly prefer an immediate, smaller reward over a larger, delayed reward. Everyone wants immediate success, immediate respect, immediate dominance in an argument.
Instant gratification.
Yes, but true. Lasting power belongs to those who possess the cognitive discipline to wait for the mathematically perfect moment.
The hunter metaphor of the text is so evocative here. A novice walks into the woods and starts blindly firing their rifle at the first rustle of leaves they hear.
Just wasting ammo.
Right.
Yeah.
That is exactly what an impulsive person does in a corporate meeting or an argument, wasting their ammunition, revealing their position, and scaring away the actual objective.
Exactly.
A master hunter operates entirely differently. They calculate the wind, they measure the distance, they control their breathing, they wait. And they strike with absolute surgical precision only when the target is in the optimal position.
It requires overriding your System 1, thinking the fast, instinctual brain, and relying on System 2, the slow, calculating, logical brain. It is not about moving at maximum speed, it is about moving at maximum impact.
Which requires immense patience.
Profound strategic patience. Furthermore, to truly succeed in environments designed to extract your value, you have to stop conforming to the behavioral algorithms expected of you. You must become an anomaly.
Right, break the pattern.
The system relies on you being predictable, available, and emotionally reactive. When you stop providing those inputs, you break their algorithm.
But going against the grain like that is terrifying. Our entire society is basically a giant machine designed to chew up and spit out people who don't conform to the polite, predictable script.
It is scary.
If you suddenly start acting unpredictable, if you stop answering emails at night, if you stop over-explaining yourself to your boss, people are going to get extremely uncomfortable.
They will undoubtedly experience cognitive dissonance and discomfort because you are forcing them to renegotiate their relationship with you. But on the other side of that discomfort is where respect is born.
That's the payoff.
And this raises an important question. Now that you comprehend the architecture of human dynamics, what are you actually going to do? The realization is a threshold. Knowing this information is dangerous because once you see the strings, you cannot unsee them.
Right. The veil has been permanently lifted. You can't pretend you don't know how the game is played anymore.
Precisely. If you absorb this deep dive, understand the mechanics of perception, scarcity, and emotional control, and you still consciously choose to return to your old, hyper-available, emotionally reactive, oversharing habits, well, you can no longer claim to be a victim of naivety.
Well, that's heavy.
You are now actively, deliberately choosing to be invisible, to be a utility, and to be exploited.
That is a brutal mirror to hold up. But we don't have to overhaul our entire personality by tomorrow morning, right? There are incredibly small, actionable experiments you can run today to test these theories.
Absolutely. Start small.
Like add a slight pause before you answer a question to introduce a little mystery.
Right.
Actively curb the urge to send that 3-paragraph email when one sentence will do.
Yes, that's a great one.
When someone throws a passive-aggressive jab, just look at them calmly, let the silence hang, and respond without a trace of emotion. Pull back just 10% of your availability from a relationship where you are taken for granted.
And then watch what happens.
Exactly. And then just sit back and watch the data roll in.
Yeah.
Watch how the exact same people who used to talk over you or ignore you suddenly lean in and start paying attention.
Because you have unilaterally changed the rules of engagement. You've stopped playing the game they rigged in their favor, and you're forcing them to play on a board where you control the pieces.
Wow. Let's take a breath and consolidate everything we have unpacked today. We started by dismantling the dangerous illusion of pure kindness, realizing that goodness without teeth is just an open invitation for opportunists.
Right.
We explored how the human brain relies on heuristics, meaning that managing the perception of our power is often more critical than our actual objective competence. We embraced the profound leverage that comes from the currency of silence and the economic law of scarcity.
Powerful tools.
We fortified our nervous systems to remain emotionally impenetrable in the face of provocation. And finally, we adopted the cold, calculating patience of the hunter, ready to break societal scripts and become an unpredictable anomaly.
You are no longer navigating blindly. The psychological game board is fully illuminated. The choice you have to make moving forward is stark.
It really is.
Will you continue to play by the comforting, outdated rules, remaining a predictable pawn and allowing others to dictate your value and hijack your emotions? Or will you begin the uncomfortable but necessary work of writing the rules yourself?
It is a massive, life-altering paradigm shift. And it leaves me with one final lingering thought to send you off with. We opened this deep dive talking about the profound pain of doing the right thing and being exploited, the feeling of leaving your front door wide open in a bad neighborhood and inevitably getting robbed.
Yeah.
We've now discussed how to build the walls, install the locks, and deploy the strategy to never be a victim again. But here's the question I want you to mull over.
I'm ready.
If everyone listening to this right now deeply internalizes this Machiavellian mindset, if we all become emotionally impenetrable, fearfully strategic, highly protective of our vulnerabilities, and absolute masters of perception, do we ultimately end up living in a cold, cynical world of endless, exhausting chess matches? Or, by eliminating the easy targets, do we actually force society to evolve into a place of profound mutual respect where exploitation is simply no longer possible because everyone is finally too smart to be played?